Okay, we're live now.
Mhm.
Okay, then we're good. We're good to go.
Mhm.
All right, thank you, everyone. I really would like to welcome every one of us to this live session today. Today is the first day of March 2025, and we are going to be speaking or talking about a very important topic. Today, our focus will be on emotional intelligence, but more specifically, emotional intelligence for sustainable wins. Emotional intelligence for sustainable wins. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. So, I want to thank all those who have joined us from different parts of the world, those who are participating and who have come today to be part of this section. Before we start, it is very important that I do a brief introduction because we have a guest today in the house. A very experienced guest, very qualified to speak to this topic because apart from certification that she has and the individual she has dealt with around the world, she has a practical experience in helping people to overcome challenges in their personal and business lives. Today we have in the room who will speak to us, Coach Ugochi Osai. And permit me for just about 1, 2 minutes to read out a few things about Coach Ugochi. So, after 17 years in the banking and finance, and of course, venture capital space, Ugochi pivoted and is today a credentialed leadership and executive coach. She is dedicated to empowering individuals to unlock their full potential. With over 5 years of experience as executive and leadership coach, she had the privilege of working with diverse range of clients across various industries across the world, helping them achieve remarkable growth and transformation through coaching. Coach Ugochi sees personal development as a gift each of us owes ourselves in order to optimize our unique potentials and live fulfilled lives. A journey she catalyzes with her clients, driving rapid and meaningful transformation for them. Coach Ugochi is an ICF certified coach and currently serves as the vice president of the International Coach Federation Nigeria. I also want to say here, without any fear of contradiction, that she is a pastor. She has been helping people with growth, specifically in their spiritual lives, but also in their personal development. Coach Ugochi, it's good to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Pascal. I was beginning to wonder whether it was still me you were talking about, but it is
It,
well.
it certainly will be you, and it has to be you.
Thank you, thank you, thank
And
you.
I am so happy that you accepted our invitation to be here today. And we could not have chosen a better person given your experience, given the number of years you've put into developing people, helping families, individuals, businesses. And I believe that this is the right choice that we made. So thank you again for joining us. So we're going to get started, but I just want to again thank all those who are joining us. Coach Ugochi, so let's start this way.
Mm.
Today, emotional intelligence has become a very big factor. That's the truth. A lot of companies, individuals make decisions today based on this emotional intelligence. In fact, it has become a well sought after virtue, if you like, for companies who are headhunting, for people who are going into relationships, for entrepreneurs, for ministers, if you like. And therefore, it's very important for us to understand why emotional intelligence has become so sought after in the world today. So, before we delve into emotional intelligence for sustainable ways, which is our topic, I'd like to just ask Coach Ugochi, what is emotional intelligence and why is it so important in what we do today?
Thank you, Pascal. I would like to just keep it as simple as possible. Emotional intelligence is about self awareness, recognizing myself, understanding my emotions, and knowing how to handle the emotions and relate to other people. That's it in its most basic form. So when we're talking about about emotional intelligence, we're talking about first of all self awareness. Who am I? What are my values? What do I like? What are my weaknesses? What are the things I don't like, and what are even my triggers? You understand yourself. Then there's a critical aspect of emotional intelligence that is called self-regulation. Because I know myself, because I know the areas where I can, drop the ball, I learn how to regulate myself. And I'm doing all of this because I am aware that I am not living on an island. I have to interface with human beings who have emotions just as I do, who I probably have to work with or collaborate with in various spheres and in various situations. So the question of empathy comes in. I may not agree with them. I may not be the same as them. I may not have the same mindset, but I will have to work with them. I need to be able to put myself in their shoes and make something happen in spite of whatever differences that we have. When I was thinking about this, I remembered a story. I think they call it the cockroach theory. It was something that was used by the CEO of Google or CEO. And the story goes like this: a cockroach sauntered into a restaurant. And when it got to the door, it flew in and landed on one of the patrons. The woman jumped up from the table, started screaming, started hitting herself, and there was panic everywhere. In the process, the cockroach left her shoulder and jumped on someone else who started reacting the same way. There was confusion. In that confusion, a waiter came in and stopped and looked what's going on, and then watched, and then saw the cockroach jump on him. And he just stood, watched the cockroach for a bit just to be sure about where the cockroach was, picked up the cockroach and flung it outside. And very soon, calm was restored.
Hmm.
That's a typical scenario to demonstrate emotional intelligence. The
Awesome.
same situation, the same challenge, maybe the same irritant, the same obstacle. Three people, two reacted, couldn't handle it, no self regulation, no nothing. Another
Hmm.
one came in, stopped, assessed the situation, and then responded. He didn't react, he just responded what needed to be done. He realized, I need to get this thing out of the way. Flipped it outside, and the challenge was dealt with. That was emotional intelligence at work. So because we know ourselves, because we are able to self-regulate, this thing should irritate me, this thing should make me afraid, but instead of reacting, I take a pause, because when I pause, it helps me to hold my emotions in check. I assess the situation, and then I decide how best to approach whatever it is at the challenge. Now, you mentioned it that increasingly before it was all about IQ, your cognitive skills, the ability to be analytical, your analytical skills. But now, like you said, headhunters, HR, they're laying more emphasis on EI or
Mm-hmm.
your EQ, how high your EI is, because they have seen that um, a stronger predictor of sustainable wins, a stronger and more reliable predictor of um, long lasting success, not quick wins, is someone whose EQ is high.
Mm.
So when they're now employing, they're not just looking for IQ, they're looking for someone who has IQ good, but more of EQ. Because without IQ, well, let me rephrase that, because we're now saying that if you have EQ and you're completely dumb. No, that's not what I mean.
Okay.
Some measure of IQ, but a higher measure of EQ means that you will most likely be a better team player. You're most likely going to be able to, be a resilient person because you have understood yourself. You have put in measures to self-regulate. You're more likely to be mindful when you're involved in situations. So they're really, really tweaking their questions and their probing to find out, to assess how high your EQ is.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
mm, reminds me of a story I heard. A man, politician, one of his greatest weaknesses was anger, and everybody around him knew it. So they found out that once you say something he doesn't like, he's more likely to explode, get up, walk out. So they now decided, since this is a trigger, anytime they want to take a decision and they believe he will not agree with it, they do something that they know will make him angry. Then he storms out of the meeting, and before
Hmm.
he comes back, they've taken the decision. So,
Hmm.
and he can't. He's just a single person, so he cannot reverse that decision. So EI really is a superpower. It
Hmm.
is something that each and every one of us needs to work to acquire. Because what can that man do? Over the years, you have seen consistently how people are working against you, scheming against you because of that weakness, because of your inability to self regulate. And by the time you come back, you can shout all you like, but the decision has been taken. Now, the same thing happens, conflict resolution. In EI, we also learn what is called emotional detachment. Every one of us has some biases, whether we want to accept it or not.
True.
Every one of us, even in a professional situation as a leader, one of the things that you have to learn is emotional detachment. Because if you are leading a team and there's a conflict, every member of that team needs to be able to trust you. And for them to trust you, it is that they have seen that you're not going to allow your biases to come into the equation.
True.
So, what do you do? How do I emotionally detach? I tell myself, I know that you prefer this person to this person, but it's not going to come into this. That's what self awareness is about. So, when you detach yourself, your biases don't come in, they see you as fair, as someone that they can trust. You're able to build a stronger team that is willing to go with you wherever you want to. The high turnover that is often seen in some organizations is addressed. Why? Because you have established a culture of emotional intelligence. So it's
Yeah.
not just you that's emotionally intelligent, the people under you are encouraged to be emotionally intelligent. They know that they have a listening ear because you practice active listening. And active listening is not passing your judgment on them. Active listening is hearing them, empathizing with them, and then coming out with a solution that you think is a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
When this happens, then you're looking at sustainable wins for everyone all around.
Okay.
This EI works whether it's in the professional scene, the family, you're a parent, and maybe I'll just, round up with this now. You're a mother, you come in, you're exhausted. Traffic was horrible. You're tired. Your son is watching TV. You give him, dinner, and then after some time you say it's time for bed, because if he goes to bed, then you can go to bed. And he says, "No, mommy, I want to finish this program." And the next thing, poof, you explode. "I've told you go to bed. I'm tired. I'm this. I'm that." Hey, you haven't displayed any iota of emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
Like the cockroach, the boy watching TV is not the problem. The problem is your state of mind, your state. Now, how about just saying, "Hey, son, empathy. I understand you're disappointed, but can we look at it this way? You need to rest. Mommy needs to rest. I'll read you a bedtime story." What have you shown there? I have empathized. I understand that you're disappointed. You're not being trying to be rebellious. You're disappointed. So I empathize. I offer you an alternative. And the boy gets up and he goes to bed. Now, he learns mommy is not wicked. Mommy understands me. Mommy has my best interest at heart. And tomorrow, if you ask him to go to bed, he will do the same thing. He will obey you. So if any of us, whether you're a leader in the church, whether you're a leader in your home, you're a parent, you're a team lead, you are working with people, nobody can do it without emotional
Hmm.
intelligence.
Okay. Wow. You said quite a lot already. You've spoken for like 14 minutes, Coach Ugochi. And
Oh, sorry
I
about
mean,
that.
we are all listening with rapt attention. I love the analogy and the story around the cockroach, right?
Mhm.
Which tells how people respond. And I was happy to hear when you drew a line, though a thin line between reaction, and response, right? The first two individuals reacted in such a volatile way because they did not pause to think, could this, you know, um, be a dangerous situation? Can I handle it in a way that it does not create panic and pandemonium and affect other people around? But the last person, the third individual, was able to deal with that because he responded and understood the what danger the
Mhm.
cockroach posed. Understand that it just didn't mean any harm at that point. But the most interesting part was the story about the politician who easily gets angry, and because those working with him understood him, they decided to use his weakness because he didn't understand himself, he didn't self-regulate, and
Mhm.
they used that against him. So they
Mhm.
decided, okay, we're going to make him angry. He storms out and will make a decision.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you learned something from that, but I think that's a very instructive one for all of us on this call, for us
Mhm.
to learn that sometimes if we do not self-regulate, if we do not take control of ourselves, then people will use that,
Yeah.
okay, and we will continually be on the losing side. So thank you for that one. Very, very important. When you were talking about self-regulation, something struck me and very strongly. And
Mm.
that's one big challenge, whether it's in the family, for a man and woman who are married, whether it's in the workplace, whether you're a boss in a company, self regulation has become a very big challenge. That's the truth. Sometimes people make decisions and promises and they cannot stay within it. They don't understand who they are, they are not able to. That self awareness is not properly defined because they can't even tell why they do certain things. So
Mm.
before I go to my next another question, I wanted you to just throw more light on that. How can we develop self-regulation? How can we, build that? How can we? Is there a way to learn it? Is there a school where we have to go to learn self-regulation? Is there some meditation? What can we do to improve our self-regulation? Because I believe that's very important in emotional intelligence. Very, very
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. I don't know that you need to go to a school. At the same time, well, fine. Going to a school is not bad. But I think the first step really is self awareness. There's some people that believe that just blustering and bullying people and making noise and just all of that is power. That's how to show I have power. That's how to show I'm on top. And we see it every day in our newspapers, in our news, for those who are in, a lot of them who are in power, who don't think that self regulation. So you say you speak anyhow, you talk anyhow to people, right? First of all, is that you need to recognize that I have a weakness, I have triggers, I have something that if I don't build the appropriate um, what's the word now? If I don't address it, it will work against me. So number one, recognition,
Hmm.
accept I have it. Then two, what can I do? What did the waiter do? He paused. He assessed it. The cockroach was on him, but he paused. So there are steps to being able to self-regulate. If you pause, then you're not likely to react.
Hmm.
Then when you pause, you assess the situation. All of this can be done in the space of a few seconds or 1 minute, or depending on where you're at. So those are skills that can be learned if you want to, and if you see it as something that is necessary for your life. There's mindfulness. How am I feeling? What are my triggers? When I'm triggered, what happens to my body? How do I what how do I feel? So that when it's about to happen, you quickly recognize it and you step out of that situation. There are things that we call saboteurs, thoughts that can come up.
Hmm.
Oh, they must be talking about me. Oh, they're ganging up against me, and nobody is talking about you.
Hmm.
Once that saboteur comes, you arrest that thought and you replace it with nobody's talking about you. And even if they're talking about you, so what? What's the worst that can happen? Do you understand? You become mindful, you become aware of yourself, of your feelings, of your emotions. You learn to journal. Oh, when this happens, this is how. So you have something that you can refer to and say, hey, whenever this happens, this is how I react. So next time, I'm going to take myself out of bed. I'm not going to get to this. I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to react this way. It's not going to happen in one day because you didn't get to where you are in one day. But the first and the most important step is to recognize I have this, I want to change it, and I'm going to work on it. Once those three are in place,
Hmm.
be able to do it.
Okay, perfect. Great, great answer. And while you were speaking, Kochigochi, about the steps, what we need to do to learn self-regulation. You talked about recognition, mindfulness. At least I picked those two very, very important. But I know you are a coach, Kochigochi, and I was just going to ask this. I didn't want to forget that question. So when you look at emotional intelligence holistically, and
Mhm,
not specific now to self-regulation, which is part of emotional intelligence, I
mhm.
mean, what are the roles of coaches? I mean, can coaches help individuals in developing and applying this emotional intelligence? So, if you want to stretch it, the question is, can we learn from coaches or get help from coaches when we really want to self-regulate and, of course, become emotionally intelligent? So, what is the role of coaches? How can coaches help?
The coach, unlike what a lot of people think, they think the coach is coming to tell you, do this, do that, do that. No. What the coach does, the coach is your your partner, your co-creative partner, your partner that accompanies you on a journey of self-discovery. You with by yourself, by the questions the coach asks you, will discover that, oh, I have a challenge there. And then the coach will also lead you to, hey, what do you want? Do you want this? Is this how you want to? How do you want to live your life? Do you like the fact that every time you step out, you're not able to take part in the decisions? If you say you don't, then the coach will try and find out, okay, so what are the options available to you? If you don't, I'm not going to tell you, oh, manage yourself. But you will discover that unless I'm able to control this, then this is always going to happen to you. So what the coach does is when you have reached that conclusion that this is something I need to do, the coach now helps you, craft action steps that you will come up with. You will say, oh, I can do this. Then I can do this. And if I do this, the coach will ask you, if you do this, what is likely to happen? If you don't do it, so the coach is your default partner because the
Mm.
coach believes that every answer that you need to whatever challenge that is facing you, every step that you need to meet your goals, they're in you. You are the answer to your challenges. You are the answer to, the steps to your goals. The only thing is that you have not asked yourself the right questions and you have not dug in within yourself to bring out the right answers. So certainly, the coach can lead you to becoming a more emotionally intelligent person, not by telling you, okay, don't get angry, don't do this, don't do. If you don't think your anger is an issue, and I'm wasting my time. First of all,
Mm.
you need to recognize that it's an issue, and then you need to say, I don't want this. And then we can begin to craft steps towards that. And then you can hold yourself accountable because you are the one that came up with those action steps. I don't know if that answers your question.
It answers it perfectly. And you brought something out which I consider very important because in this part of the world, sometimes we think that a coach is an expert who will give you an answer, a solution to all your questions or challenges. People believe sometimes that when you have a coach will just sit you down and tell you do A, B, C, D, and you get the result. But you've clarified that the coach is just a co-creator. You know, the coach does not tell you what to do. It's just to help you answer questions and be able to discover things yourself. And one of our participants here, Tenny says, you are the answer to your own challenge. You know, he's paraphrasing what you said, and that is the truth. And I wanted that to come out so those of us who are joining the call will understand that the responsibility as to whether we win or not is entirely up to us. Nobody's going to, we need to wake up, be self accountable, be self aware, and then push through and get the results and win and win and win again. With that
Yeah.
said, let's move to something else. So we're talking about emotional intelligence for sustainable wins. And I want us to be a bit more specific. And I said when we started, by way of introduction, that emotional intelligence has become so well sought after these days. Whether it's in relationship, it's very important. Whether you're running a business, it's very important. Whether you're running a church, it is very important. If you're an employee in your career growth, it is very important. Even in your social interactions, right? Emotional intelligence, in politics, you mentioned that before. And so the question then is, that word sustainable for me is very important. And
Mhm.
when we say something is sustainable, it's like more like saying, you know, guaranteed. So how can we ensure that the emotional intelligence we are developing can sustain our wins? And wins is not like being a champion, you know, it's getting into a venture and succeeding, whether it is your personal life, relationship, business, work. So that sustainability part is where I wanted to speak to. How can we ensure that sustainability so that each time we get into a venture, we are almost certain that with the application of emotional intelligence, we can get the result that we want and we can come out to say to ourselves, bravo, we've done it and that we won. So how do we ensure sustainability?
Okay. I like to look at sustainability as long term. I remember when I was talking, I said something about there some people that goes for quick wins. I scream at you, you're bullied into doing something, I win. But when we talk about sustainable wins, we're talking about long-term success. We're talking about success that is not jerky, success that is not that you can maintain long term. If you're in an organization and you're emotionally intelligent and you have learned the skills of self-regulation, mindfulness, there are quite a number of them, effective communication, then you are targeting long-term, long-term success. You're not going to start losing your staff because they're dissatisfied, the environment is toxic, they don't feel that anybody is interested in them as human beings. That's long-term success. If you're a man or a woman who is in a relationship and you have learned how to talk, you have learned how to weigh your words, you have learned when to speak, how to speak, then you're not likely going to get into a conflict every time with your partner.
Hmm.
long term, you can maintain your relationship. So when we talk about sustainable wins, we're talking about practices, skills that you can put into practice in your life, whether it's professional or personal or religious or in whatever sphere that you find yourself, and you keep winning, you keep collaborating, you keep having people interested in what you're doing, you keep having people wanting to, co-create with you. You're able to build high performance teams, and when your high performance teams are performing, then your organization is growing, then things are happening. You
Hmm.
have developed the skills of responding and not reacting. Then conflict may not be eliminated. And we also don't even want to eliminate conflict, because when there's conflict, that's where there's also innovation and creativity and all of that. But conflict is now harmonized because you have learned to respond and not react, and you have taught those under you. And all of these translate to long-term wins, long-term success, right? Um, I think that's, and then again, one of the things about EI is that it helps you to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So what's a
Hmm.
fixed mindset? I can't do it. I can't kill myself. This is how I am. This is how far I'm willing to go. And a growth mindset says, I may not have the answers, but I'm going to. I can try. Should be able to overcome, right? So there's positivity. The other one is, please, this is how far I want to go, because I don't think I can do, more than this. Then with that comes, everything else that comes with a growth mindset. A can do spirit. We have a
Yes.
can do spirit. A can do spirit can only lead to long term success, long term wins. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Before I take on other areas that I have right on my head here, there is a question, which is quite an interesting one, from Adekule Amos, and he says, "Is there any similarities or otherwise between emotional intelligence and emotional quotient?"
Oh, emotional intelligence is the things that we've been discussing, the skills that you
Yeah.
acquire to help you to collaborate with other human beings. You're not a machine, and you're not living with machines. So those are the skills. Emotional quotient is how high those skills are, how good you are. It's a measurement of your
Exactly.
emotional intelligence. So yeah, that's what
That's it.
makes
Yes,
them.
I totally agree, because I was looking at the document a few days ago, and that's exactly how it is defined. And I've known this also for some time, that we're talking about emotional intelligence here. It's that capacity, right? Why the quotient part, like you said, is a measure of how you apply that. At what level do you apply it? So um, 5, 6 persons can have emotional intelligence, but at what level? So their responses to life's issues will be different. Responses to stress and to issues. You talked about the cockroach scenario. If you probably stretch that to about 5 persons, you realize you probably have 3, 4 different responses, right? One might be at a very high level, and then the one might be moderate, and one might react in such a way that it becomes a bit chaotic. So that's properly answered. The quotient part is a measure of emotional intelligence. Thank you so much. There's another question from Temi. He says, Gen Zs capitalize on the fact that they are not understood. They are lazy and they claim not to be understood. How can we empathize and yet still be strict? How can we empathize and yet still be strict? Um, well, I'm not sure I
And
agree
yet
with them.
what?
I'm not
And
sure I
yet
agree with
what?
them being lazy. I'm not sure I agree
No,
with them being lazy.
because
It's
that's,
just
that's
about
already a bias. That's already a
yeah,
bias.
it's bias and prejudices. Yeah. So please go ahead, Coach Gochi.
No, but I didn't get the end of that. How can we do what?
So how can we empathize and yet be strict? Empathize
Be
and yet
strict.
be strict.
First of all, I've talked about the bias. When there's bias, your reaction will not be right. Right.
Hmm?
So if I already think that Gen Zs are lazy, then I'm going to view them through a lens that is not clear. And my
Exactly.
reactions and my relationship with them is going to be flawed. Now, how can we be strict with them? Are you more interested in being strict, as in getting them to work to achieve the goals that you have set for them? You
Mm.
need to decide. Because when you're talking about being strict now, it's now also through that bias eye. Believe me, I work with Gen Zs and I find out that when they're invested in something, when they're interested in something, you will be the one to be say, okay, it's okay, stop, rest, and they'll tell you no, because they're really passionate about what they're doing. They're invested in it. They want to see it happen. So the thing is, have you taken time to pause and ask yourself, how best can I bring the best out of this person or out of these people? When we talked about empathy, we talked about putting yourself in their shoes. Yes, they may not be systems people, but and and that may not even be true. There may be some of them who can work with systems. But when it comes to creativity and innovation and speed and boldness, they have it. So is there a way where I can work with them in the area of core strength and competence without trying to subject them to um, this is how we have done it, this is how it should be done? Because that may be an area of weakness for some of them. So it's like looking at, who do I have? The same way you looked at yourself, self awareness. And inside of me, there are, all of us have developmental areas. I hate to say weaknesses. That Gen Z person has developmental areas in certain capacities, but they also have strengths. Can I work with their strengths? Can I challenge them in that area? Can I work with their areas of passion and make that which they have work for me? It has to do with your mindset. But I'll still reiterate that if I get off on the foot of they're lazy, then I lose them because they don't like to be labeled. And neither do I when I think about it. So it may not be a Gen Z peculiarity, right? But that's what I believe.
Thank you so much for that. And if you don't mind, just one or two thoughts around that. What I've realized over the years is that Gen Zs do not want to be stereotyped, right? They don't want to be fixated into something. This is how you must do it. You don't have to ask any questions. That is the rule. That is the policy. That's how we do it here. And you will agree that while we might have some concerns about their ways and their approaches, we must, and like Coach Ugochi said, when it comes to creativity and innovation, you have to give it to them. And what is the world today without creativity and innovation? And that's where, if you ask me, emotional intelligence becomes very important. I would say it's understanding yourself and understanding the others. So when you do, the question is, how can I bring that better part of me that can click and connect with that better part of the other individual? There's been this push all the time that it's important we look at areas where we agree and we are connect, strengthen it, and the areas where we seem to disagree and see how we can gradually, build out of as we move on in the future. So whether we like it or not, Gen Zs are still working in structured companies today. It's just that sometimes, their speed, they really want to do things fast and quick and then move on. And some companies have learned to create their own, how would I put it now, their own ecosystem for them, right? Use them where they are best
Mhm.
and get the result. And
Mhm.
don't try to use them where you think they will struggle or they will disagree with you. So it all boils down to that emotional intelligence. When you understand them and how to use them, you use them to get the results and then get other people to do other things. And we are all
Yeah,
happy and we are all moving. We
yeah.
don't have to insist that they must fit into places where they don't fit into.
I
There
hear
are, yes,
people
there
like
are,
Elon Musk and Google. have
Exactly.
excelled in
There
that.
are people
Just
who are not
hold them
given to
there.
working in companies for a long time. There are people who are
Mhm,
not given to being fixated somewhere for a long time, and it's okay. It's not a problem.
mhm.
So that's where emotional intelligence comes in. How do we
Yeah,
deal with such individuals? We all have biases.
yeah.
There's no individual without it, but we must be able to learn and resolve whatever thing looks like conflict and be able to move on. So, Coach Ugochi, thank you so much for that. I'm checking if there is another question. They're appreciating you for your responses and your answers to their questions. They're satisfied with that. So if you can still hear me, Coach Ugochi, I want to go a bit deeper in terms of how emotional intelligence can play a role, whether in successful relationships or even when you work in a team. We realize that sometimes you can get people who have different personalities into a team, right? They come with different ages, different certifications. Their sexes might be different. Their religious inclinations might be different. Culture might be different. A lot of things, and you want to put them together in the same team to work. And
Mhm.
sometimes it could be so difficult to get everyone on the same page. So my question specifically is, how can emotional intelligence help in team building and team bonding, right? To achieve the greatest success or goal of a company. So emotional intelligence in team building or team bonding, how can that help to get teams to work better together?
I'm glad you said it can be difficult, but it's not impossible
Yes.
if you go in with knowledge and determination. There are no two people, even twins, are sometimes differ in certain things. So if you are trying to build a team, the first thing is I'm dealing with individuals who are divergent.
Mm-hmm.
However, I need to give them a goal that every single one of them feels committed to.
Mm-hmm.
How do I say it? The example we usually use in coaching for teams or team for a team is a group of surgeons or surgeons who need to operate on someone. So you have the surgeon, you have the anesthetists, you have the nurses, and what are they focused on? This client or this patient must live. So every one of them is passionate, is committed to the goal. This must be a success, and this person must live. If you're a team leader, you need to identify that one thing that will bind all of them together. They don't have to be the same. The anesthetist, it does not have to be a surgeon. I'm not interested in being a surgeon. I don't want to think like a surgeon, but I'm going to make sure that my part of the equation works
Mm-hmm.
and perfectly. The nurse doesn't have to cut the person open. That's not my business. But I need to be sure that when the doctor, the surgeon says, what do they say? Scissors, whatever, it goes into his hands as and when he wants
That's right.
it. So, am I building a team? What is the central thing that connects them? I push that forward. And then I get everyone to commit to how will I make this work from where I stand. So I'm not trying to get you to be Christian when you're Muslim or to be Muslim when you're Christian. It doesn't matter. I'm not getting you to speak French or English as long as we have one language that we can all understand. So how do I build a team? I, as a leader, need to be able to identify the central focus of every member of that team and then get them to commit to that and then get them to put in whatever skills that they have to that. That kind of removes almost 90% some of the areas of conflict because I'm speaking from my from the area of my core competence. The surgeon is not going to argue with me on that, and that's how the team gets to work. Now you can extrapolate that and put them into the family, put that into I don't know
Yeah.
wherever you are working with teams. That's it.
Thank you so much. And you know, I totally agree because um, sometimes teams struggle to work together, and I have learned over the years that when you want to constitute a team or put together a team, you don't do that randomly. You do it intentionally. Intentionally, in the sense that you have to ask is what will be the role of each individual member of the team to make the whole. There's this saying that the weakest part of a chain is also the strongest part, because the moment it's broken, that chain loses, you know, the strength. And therefore, as somebody even did mention here, Adekule Emos, he says SWOT analysis. But it's important for us to understand that, you know, understanding the personality of the individuals, understand what they are bringing to the team is very important. So each person understands there is no conflict. So if I am very good in effective communication, it means I am the one who communicates everything that the team decides, you know, who understand what to say and how to say it. If I'm good at execution, it means as we brainstorm and everything, it's okay, it's time to execute. That's where I have to go. There are people who are very good in analytics. They analyze things a lot and able to, that's their own role. And there are others who are in the team to manage conflict, you know, and ensure there are no issues. That is their role. So each person in that team must come with something. And that comes from the area of the emotions. What are you good at? What are you known for? What is it you know that you can deliver excellently if you wake you up from sleep and say this is it, and you just do it without thinking too much? And what that tells me is that putting together a team, you know, must be intentional. But even when that is done, sometimes there could still be conflict. And if conflicts, you know, do arise, then emotional intelligence comes into saying, okay, how do we go ahead? Because you talked about, you know, conflict resolution as also part of what emotional intelligence can help us accomplish. So I brought that up for those of us who work in teams to understand that it's key in what we do every day to ensure that we can have team cohesion, team bonding, and of course achieve the team's goal. This session is
I
supposed to
think,
be one.
sorry, I
Yeah,
think also I need to bring this right. There is
yes.
a mindset that we have that we need to remove conflict. Please, if you're a leader or you're in any position where you're working with people, make conflict work for you. You know how it is where you say, failure is very bad. No, failure is just an opportunity to retune. All obstacles, challenges, too many challenges is bad. No, they're good because they become stepping stones. Change your mindset about a whole lot of these things. You can never eliminate conflicts because we're all different people. But if we can bond around a central theme that is important to me and you and him and her, then whatever conflicts we have, we harmonize it and make it work for the overall good of everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And you're very correct. You know, I used to say this all the time that when you are a leader, you should never wish that challenges don't come your way. You should never wish that conflicts don't exist. No, you must build the capacity to deal with them because it doesn't matter how much you wish them away. They will continue to exist as long as we are humans. And that's why Coach Ugochi did say when she started that no two persons have the same DNA. No two persons have exactly the same behavior when they're analyzed. We are born differently into different circumstances, different families, into different situations. And therefore, it's important for us to expect that once in a while conflicts will arise. And when they do arise, how do we deal with them? That's where that emotional intelligence comes in. So the leader should always expect that conflict will arise and prepare on how to deal with them. That's about being proactive. Emotional intelligence is also about being proactive, right? About knowing yourself, knowing the other, and anticipating what could happen. And if and when it does happen, what are the likely options, steps we're going to take in dealing with them? So you don't wait until things take you unawares. You become reactionary, you know, as opposed to responding to things because you expected or anticipated that those things were going to happen. So thank you so much for that, for clarifying. We have just about 11 minutes to round this up. And I have just one more thing to put across, and probably we'll see if there are others who have questions. And probably this is going to be the last part for me. Now, we, we've seen leaders, whether it's in Nigeria or across the world, who sometimes find it difficult, right, to stay focused on either what they've promised to deliver. Sometimes they either they change their positions, change their words, They are cold in the morning, in the afternoon they are warm, and in the night they are hot. They say yes now in the morning, in the afternoon they say no, and then they say, oh, we don't know, and all of that. So part of what I'm going to ask about this is for young people who are aspiring to be leaders, whether it's leaders in business, in religious bodies, because I mean, even in religious cycles now, we see what's happening in political cycles. So even in businesses, we see a lot is happening. Corruption has become the order of the day. And I'm going back again to the self-regulation. Part of what I have learned over the years is self-regulation is also about being able to build, you know, a wall around yourself and say, I want to operate within these confines. Whatever is beyond this world for me is not for me, and I don't want to get it because that will be corruption or it will be greed. So my question in that is, how can leaders, whether in non-profit space, business, political, religious, right, ensure that they can be consistent? Because for me, consistency is important. You talk about sustainability long term. How can they be consistent with their words, their actions, and the things that they do instead of changing their position? Is there a place, or is there a place for emotional intelligence in that? If yes, where is? And if no, what, in your personal opinion as coach, can help people stay consistent, stay true to themselves, and stop changing their positions every now and then?
Yeah, emotional intelligence comes in there too, because the first step in emotional intelligence is self awareness. And self awareness is where you actually ask yourself, what are my values? What do I believe in? All right. I know they say that, oh, whatever the values you have, it's just that the right amount of money has not been weighed in front of you. But there's some people who truly have values, and they have created boundaries from themselves. And they say, something, I'm not going to go beyond this. I don't care. Now, oftentimes in our society, they're looked at as foolish. You're not taking advantage of what has come to you. This is the turn of our family to enjoy, and you're not, maximizing the opportunity. No. First of all, establish what your values are. The inconsistency comes when your values are wishy washy, when you don't even believe in what you say you believe in. But when you believe in what you say you believe in, then you're going to put measures to make sure that the kind of people you allow around you are people who can help sustain those values. If you have this value, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to tell lies, I'm not going to start embezzlement, I'm not going to steal, then you're surrounded by people, for whatever reason, who don't believe in your values, who don't live according to your values. If you're not careful, very soon you will have swung over to their side without even realizing it. So whoever it is that you are, reinforce that by the people, by your close circle. Let them be people who think, who believe, who have the values that you have, who see the things, who are visionaries like you are. If you're a visionary, if you're also a wishy-washy, anywhere it sees, anywhere I take it, then allow them also, because they will help you build the strength and show you the ways to do those wishy-washy things. So number one, establish your values. Tell yourself some home truths. This is who I am. This is who I want to be. This is how I'm going to sustain that. First of all, friends. Secondly, who do you relate with? Who are you networking with? Are they people of like values? Are they people who are contrary, opposite to you? Then thirdly, how am I going to sustain this long term? You need to speak it. People need to hear you proclaim, this is what I believe in. You need to act it, back it up with action. Because if people can see you shift 1 centimeter from who you say you are, next time that you want to go back to those better, boy, I beg, 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 go and sit down. Leave this thing, Joe. And before you know where you are, because you remember that you failed, then you're more likely. So it's entirely up to the individual, entirely up to you how you want to live your life. But be convinced, have a conviction, follow it through with your actions, follow it through with your words, follow it through with the people who are seen around you. And that should kind of, help take you to the place where you want to be. It is not true that everybody in Nigeria is corrupt. it is not true that everybody in Nigeria is a thief. It is also not true that if you can't beat them, you should join them. Those are all mindsets that are going to lead you to where you say you don't want to, or where you think you don't want to.
Right. Thank you, Coach Gochi. Thank you. As you were speaking, something came to my mind. Something I learned a few years ago. So many years ago, it was over 10 years, right? And it points to what you talked about. When you want people to perceive you in certain ways, when you put out a certain, demeanor, and this is how you want to be seen, you're presenting a personality. It's important for you to ask yourself if that is truly who you are. And one way to really check yourself, do the three steps. So first is self-reflection, second is self-regulation, and the third one is your self-perception, right? So self-reflection is locking yourself up in your room and interrogating yourself. Ask yourself, if you've been in a public office, have you led well? If you have children, are you a good example? If you a boss in the office, are you bossing correctly? If I use that word. If you're a team member, are you really a good team member? Wherever you find yourself, so ask yourself the question, who truly are you, and answer the questions. Accept the mistakes, accept your weaknesses, identify them, and own up to them. Don't go out there and put up a facade, a face of who you are not, because someday truly you will be exposed. So that's what that self-reflection, that's what it is. When you reflect on all of that and identify your strengths, your weaknesses, who you are, who you're not, what you're able to do, what you're not able to do, then you now come to the point of self-regulation. That's okay. Now that I know myself, I'm going to focus on this area of my strength, and the things I'm not able to do, either get help or get someone else to do it. Because sometimes we think we're jack of all, we want to do everything, and they will end up not accomplishing anything substantial. So when you do that self-regulation, it also helps you in self-control, like what you're going to say. It helps you come to and say, look, if I'm in the public office, the public money is not my money, I cannot dip my hand in it, right? If I'm leading some persons, I understand that I'm seen as an example, a leader, I cannot ask them to do what is wrong. So you regulate yourself and stay within your strength and what you can manage and what you can delegate, right? And then the final one is that self-perception. After you are able to have a clearer perception of yourself, who you are, and that is what you take out to the public. That is what people see, and not the previous self, right? Where you dress so smartly, like a serious business person, a leader, but there's nothing leadership under your cloak, and that is exactly what it is. So self interrogation, self-reflection, self-regulation, and self-perception is very important for us to be able to stay consistent and true to ourselves, who we are, and remain there. There are one or two questions. I'm not sure we'll have time. Let me see if I can take the last one and say, how can emotion intelligence play a major role on the young Nigerians warming up for leadership roles across the board? Which I don't know if you want to attempt that in one
I
or two
think
minutes.
we've all kind of answered that question.
Yes,
You want to take
it's
a
an answer
leadership role.
before.
Why? Why do you
Yes.
want to take a leadership role? So you can go make money. You've already missed it from the beginning. Why?
Yes.
So that comes back to that self-reflection, self-evaluation, putting boundaries for yourself and all of that, and then go in there, right? And I believe we've kind of addressed
Yes.
that one way or the
True.
other.
It's also about questioning yourself for the why. I said the why. You
Yeah.
want to, take up a leadership role. Why? You must understand, must justify it. You must interrogate yourself, okay, and be clear that it is not for the wrong reason. Because people are getting into leadership roles now because of what they can get out and put in their pocket, not because they want to serve. So, Coach Ugochi did address that before. You need to first be clear in your mind why you really want to get in there. And if you don't have a good justification, if you don't have a strong why, then there's no need to go there because you will end up like others. That's the truth. You will end up like,
Yeah.
what self control is about getting into a place, not allowing the place to influence you, but you influencing the place. I call it changing circumstances as opposed to circumstances changing you. So how many persons can get into the Nigerian politics today and say, I'm still myself? I'm still who I am 10 years ago, 15 years ago. How many persons? That's a big question to answer, right? So self-control, self-regulation, it's very, very important. We spent exactly 1 hour on this section, and this section was built for 1 hour. I'm sure if we continue to go on, Coach Ugochi can go on for another 1 hour, but there will be other opportunities in the future. So, Coach Ugochi, I really want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
What you have brought to bear, I cannot explain it in words. So fluently, you've been able to, you know, give life to this topic, emotional intelligence for sustainable weight. And I'm sure those of us who joined the call have taken some great lessons from here that we can apply in our lives, understanding what emotional intelligence is, how do we identify, you know, um, and apply it? How can we develop it? How do we work in teams? How do we ensure that if we want to pick up leadership roles, we're going in there for the right reasons? And how can emotionally play roles in teams, relationships, and all of that? You've broken everything down. So I really want to thank you for this. And thank those who have joined us for spending one full hour here. It's been awesome. It's been um, a great learning experience, a learning curve for all of us. I'm sure that we can get better and apply emotional intelligence in our work life, in our families, amongst our colleagues, in our social interactions. They are very, very important. And they will stand you out. That's the truth. They will stand you out. So it cannot hide from it. So thank you everyone. Because you're going to thank you again. And
Thank
until we bring another exciting episode to you. It is bye from me, Pascal Dike, who's been the moderator today. And let's keep living great lives. And the only way that can happen is for us to understand that in each one of us is deposited great talent. We must not, we must not exit this earth without unleashing those talents, not just for our own benefits, but for the benefit of those we encounter each day from our family to work to business. They must be able to get something. So that must rub off on them. And that's the only way to live a fulfilling life. Thank you so much. Until we come your way again. God bless you all. God bless. Coach Gochu, thank you so much. The
Bye bye.
Japanese will say, Arigato gozaimasu. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Muchas gracias. Bye.
Thank you.